Elevate your hatching egg shipping business with Beyond the Egg. Discover the art of premium packaging, master the details of shipping, and create an unforgettable experience for your customers. Enhance your reputation, build lasting trust, and set your business apart as the gold standard. Visit BeyondTheEgg.com to begin your journey to excellence.
Welcome back, poultry nerds. I'm Jennifer, and I am here with
Carey
and Nolie from Mojo Homestead Official, because the unofficial is official anymore, right?
Literally been scammed.
It's there, but we don't follow it anymore. Welcome, Nolie. How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing really good. Thanks for having me.
Good. We've been trying to get you on for a while, and you just, no, I don't think so. And I said, how about rainbow egg colors? And you said, I'm still, like 3 days ago.
You did. You just have to pick one of my favorite topics to talk about.
I was gonna say it's just a topic. We had to find the right one that fits.
So tell all of our listeners who you are, what you do, and where you are, and all that good stuff if they don't know who you are.
My name is Nolie. I raise and breed chickens. I also educate about chicken keeping, primarily for beginners, but also for people of any stage. I have a Facebook page called Mojo Homestead Official, where I share all kinds of videos and photos and stories. And it's also recently become like a hub for breeders in general to share a lot of information with each other, which has been really cool. And that's it. I love chickens. I love rainbow eggs and working with chickens for egg colors. And so here we are.
How did you get started in chickens?
It started with some distrust of the government and led to me wanting to be more self-sufficient. And 150 chickens later, here we are.
Whoa, you actually know a number?
Look, I know I threw a number out there. I haven't counted. I don't even know the last time I've actually counted my chickens.
I was fixing to say, oh man, that was gonna be very impressive if you actually knew the number.
No. But if NPIP asked me, I'd say 150. It's about 150.
That's fair.
I always say more than 100.
Yeah.
And just leave it at that.
Yes. That sounds about right.
It's true. It's more than 100. So you have Moran and your big boy. What's his name? You're always posting pictures of him.
Well, it's Don Juan.
Don Juan. Is he a lover?
He is a lover. He's a good. The way that he got his name was at one point he was fertilizing 17 different hens at one time. He can no longer do that. He's pushing about 6 years now, so he slowed down on his vigor when it comes to mating. But he still has a breeding. He's still in a breeding pen, but he's down to about 3 girls that he keeps fertilized, and that's comfortable for him.
So you must be really impressed with his egg color genetics, then, huh?
When it comes to my Marans, I am also really focused on standards of perfection. So he encompasses some pretty good characteristics of what I want to breed towards in my Marans, and he has a nice egg color as well. So egg color is not my focus with my Marans, but it is something that I'm mindful of because it is part of that standard of perfection when it comes to that breed. So that's where I'm at with him.
Okay. And then before we delve into actually the rainbow genetics, what breed do you use for the blue?
At this point, I use Ameraucanas. But when I started chasing the rainbow, I was breeding leg bars. I did leg bars, cream, and Creole leg bars for several years. But honestly, I don't like working with auto-sexing breeds. It's too much of a pain when you're dealing with chicks because you got to figure out what to do with all those males that nobody wants anything to do with. And I'm not interested in that. And I like the presentation of the Ameraucanas. I like the beards and the muffs. I like the pea comb. And that pea comb is often associated with blue egg genetics. Not always, but often. So in those later generations, if you're back crossing olive eggers, you can use that pea comb as an indication that maybe there's still blue genes present before eggs are laid or blue egg, like DNA testing is done.
I had never heard that before.
Yep.
How interesting. Okay. So with the Americana, how certain do you have to be that he's homozygous for blue? Is that
Well, true Americanas, not the Americana Easter eggers that you see at hatcheries. True Americanas, it is a breed characteristic that they are homozygous blue layers. So if they are not, so if somebody listening doesn't know that homozygous means that they're carrying 2 copies of a blue egg gene. So each parent, a bird has 2 parents, and each parent is going to pass down one egg gene. And when both parents pass down a blue egg gene, then the offspring is carrying 2 copies of that blue egg gene. They're homozygous for blue eggs. So real Americanas are always homozygous. They're true blue layers.
great? Is there a way to test to make sure?
Yeah, there is a company, I think they're called like IQ bird testing or something, but you can mail off samples to that company and they can tell you how many blue egg genes a bird is carrying. A lot of the silver reds breeders will do this because the serious silver reds breeders are breeding towards homozygous blue layers, or roosters don't lay eggs, but homozygous blue egg gene roosters.
Is it a blood test?
I don't know. I think it's just feathers. I think it's a feather test.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Well, I can look up after and I'll send you a link if there's like notes here somewhere in the video, you can post it in the notes.
Okay, gotcha. I know that there's another group discussing the fibro test. We're going down a rabbit hole. If you didn't know, we do rabbit holes. Testing for the fibro gene, they don't seem overly enthused about it. It's like trustworthy of it.
Yeah. I don't know. That's above my pay grade. Fibro is above my pay grade.
Okay, so before we get into the actual rainbow genetics then, so you have to make sure that you start with a true Moran, not like a mystic Moran or a Moran cross or a Moran. It has to be true.
I would say that the true blue layer, the homozygous blue egg genes are probably more important. But the brown genetics that you incorporate are going to make a big difference in the color of the offspring. They're going to contribute the depth, the darkness of the green egg that you're trying to produce. So in my olive programs, I absolutely use Morans and Ameraucanas, but you could use Welsummers. I'm actually working now on a silver olive acre program, and I'm using silver Welsummers and silver Ameraucanas to do that. The Welsummers are a little lighter length, but it's just going to have to do with that saturation of green and that F1, the first generation olive crossing. So Americana paired with a Welsummer, those offspring are probably going to lay a little bit of a lighter green than paired with the Morans. Like your Easter eggers, for example, are probably at home. They have a blue egg gene from one parent, and the other parent is probably just a lighter brown or cream colored even. That's why you have those really light greens.
Do the speckles from the Welsummer, do those get passed down through the olive?
They should, yep. Speckle, I mean, like genetics is not always 100%. In general, both speckles and your heavy blooms tend to be passed down genetically. So if one of the parents or the mother, you know what the mother's eggs look like, is carrying the speckled genetics, and probably her will be carrying it too. But here's the thing that's really interesting about that is like a lot of hens who lay speckled eggs won't necessarily lay speckled every day. Sometimes they're just not there. It just has to do the deposit of color on that egg before it comes out. And so if I have a hen who lays speckled eggs, even though she lays an egg one day that doesn't have those speckles, but I hatch from that egg is still carrying all the genetic material for speckled offspring because it's the hen's genetic material, not necessarily the presentation of that particular egg. Like this time in the season, pigment is running out. So if you're raising Morans, you'll notice that the saturation of brown is a little lighter. And it happens with blue eggs too, though the pigment will lighten throughout the laying season. but that's not indicative of what color eggs the offspring are going to have the potential to lay, because the offspring are going to receive just the genetics of that bird, which is important for people to know at this point in the season if they're receiving hatching eggs or hatching.
Okay, so I guess I was wrong. So you have to start with a true blue bird, but you can use any brown bird. It doesn't really have to be a Moran or summer. We could use an Orpington if we really wanted to.
It's too light. The colored light of that egg. If you were to breed to an Orpington, I would consider that offspring Easter egger. You want to go there. See, here's the thing. Like an olive egger is really a mutt breed. There's no standard for olive eggers, but you want to go. I would say if I were to write a standard, I would say that you need to start with a brown layer with a big shade of at least 5. Whatever breed it is really doesn't matter, but you want to start with as dark of a brown as you can get.
That makes sense.
If I were teaching somebody, I would say absolutely start with Morans or your darkest Welsummers. In my own programs, if I had a back-crossed olive egger and she's laying a dark brown, I would absolutely, and there's something about her eggs that she's speckled or heavy blue, I would definitely breed her back to a true blue layer to see what those offspring produced, even if she wasn't Morans. So it's not about the breed, it's about the egg shade, the egg color.
Gotcha. Okay. So any dark brown plus blue.
Yeah. But if we would say Morans in America, but for the sake of the conversation, it doesn't really have to be.
No, that's fine. That's why we're just in the conversation. Okay, so now we've laid the groundwork. Is there anything else that we need to know for the groundwork?
I think the groundwork simply is that to create an olive egger in that first generation, we're taking a true blue bird, a bird that has homozygous blue egg genes, and we're breeding to a dark brown layer. And the first generation olive egger is the only generation of olive egger that is going to guarantee green eggs 100% of the time. I think that's important to know.
Does it matter which way you go? Can it be a blue boy over brown girl?
Yeah, it doesn't make any difference, but there is some talk in the community that the roosters have more opportunity to like deposit browns. So there's some talk that the rooster has more to do with the depth of brown in the offspring, in Morans and olives in general.
Gotcha. Okay. So if I were to order from you an F1 olive egger, then the eggs that you shipped me would either be brown or blue, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I'm sure that shocks a few people, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I do a lot of education with people buying olives for the first time so that they can understand what they're looking at when they receive hatching eggs for sure. I think the other thing that might be foundational when it comes to egg color genetics is that truly there are only 2 egg colors there. And if you crack eggs open, brown eggs, green eggs, if you were to crack them all open, you would see that they are either white or they are blue. And when it comes to these greens and these browns and pinks and gray, like all these colors that we see, that is all pigment that is deposited on top of that white or blue eggshell. It's actually one of the last things that happens before, and same with the blooms and the speckles, before the eggs come out. And so all of your olive eggers are on a blue base. All of your brown eggs, creamed, are on a white egg base.
So it just matters what kind of pruner they're using when they go through.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. That's we all joke at this point in the season that the chickens they're just running out of toner.
Yep. They need different ink.
It really is that way though.
Okay, so you've shipped out, we're talking about the F1 generation now. So we're putting either blue eggs or brown eggs in the incubator. And so those girls that hatch will be your F1 cross. Okay. And they will lay olive eggs?
Yes. They're going to lay green eggs. The variance of the color of olive is going to have to do with the genetics, really, of the brown genetic parent.
Okay. Are those F1 boys good for anything?
I And like, this is probably going to be different depending on what olive egger breeder you talk to. I think that the first generation olives are the only useful ones. Unless you do some genetic testing, because here's what's happening. We talked about how each chicken has 2 genes, 1 gene for each parent. And I lost my train of thought. Okay. And in the beginning, that with that first generation, you had your true blue parent with 2 blue egg genes, who's definitely going to pass down a blue egg gene. And then you have your brown Bruce, you have the brown genetics that are coming into play. So that's where the brown coloring is coming in. So you have that blue egg with the brown pigment over it, which is what's giving you green. Okay, but those offspring are only going to be carrying one of each of those genes. So there's only 1 blue gene, and the other is for those brown genetics. So that chicken only has a 50% potential to pass on more blue egg genes to the next generation, which is what's necessary. I'm so sorry. So anyways, so that first F1 generation only has a 50% chance to pass on those blue egg genes to the following generation. That's where things get a little tricky. So if you're we need a Punnett square. We need to draw out a Punnett square to see the rest, because what's happening is each of those parents only have a 50% chance to pass on a blue egg gene, which is, when you're breeding olive eggers, there's a good potential for that. There's a good potential for the offspring to end up with one of those genes, at least from one of the parents.
We'll be right back.
Looking to rock some seriously comfy gear? If you love chickens and you're all about that fun style, then Chicken Box has got the perfect t-shirts for you. From quirky designs to classic looks, their shirts are as comfy as us chicken tenders deserve. They even have a subscription service so your coop doesn't get bored. Head over to PoultryNerdsPodcast.com and click on Chicken Box to get your comfy shirts and support the podcast.
I was going to say, for that, you're going to have to wait until they start for the male birds. That could be a fun science project. Take a long time.
More coops.
Yep.
That's a good excuse for more coops.
I have olives set up in 4 or 5 different pens, because I can just throw an olive in I can do olives in my Marans pens. I can do olives in the Ameraucanas pens, but I also have, like, we're talking about a later generation olive egger pen where I have F1 first generation roosters under various generations of green laying olive egger hens. And those offspring do have the potential to lay brown eggs as well, but there's a lot of color potential in there, because all of those olive egger parents are carrying the potential for blue egg genes, different brown shades. There's a lot that can happen color-wise in those offspring. I think I like the variation of it, the potential. I think it's exciting.
Okay, so let's leave the F1 boys alone for just a minute. So we have the F1 girls, and they are going to lay green egg. So you can't, what would happen? You're going to have 2 scenarios, basically. One where you breed back to either blue or brown, right? Or one where you breed to other F1 boy. Okay, so to get the depth of color, those nice, rich olive colors, are you going back to the Maran?
Yes, definitely. You're going back to as dark of a brown as you can breed to.
Okay.
So you really need like a Maran that produces a egg color of 7, 8, if you can find it. The deeper, the better on the brown.
Definitely.
So how many generations have you done and have other people done going back, and like how deep can you get that green?
Man, I don't even know. The deepest that mine go right now, I have some what I'm calling F4 crosses, but basically those are 2nd generation back cross hens, which is, so I would have had my F1 generation, which was back cross to a Marans, which was back cross to Marans again, and now I'm breeding to a first generation olive egger. So their offspring I'm considering 4th generation, but you can go as long as you want, really, just breeding. And the appeal of, okay, both breeding back to an Americana and back to a Marans are both considered back crosses, which is important too, because I think when most people hear back cross, they just assume back cross to Marans, because that's most people are trying to get those darker greens. I have one pen set up with some green laying hens back crossed to Americanas, because that Americana parent is for sure going to be giving blue egg genes to the offspring. So it's a good way to make sure that you're reintroducing those blue egg genetics. So it's almost like that next offspring, it's not a first generation, but they're going to have the blue egg genes and some of those olive brown genetics as well. It's a good way to reintroduce, make sure the blue egg genetics are reintroduced. And that's how people, like you see people who are labeling their eggs like spearmint eggers and moss eggers and all these fancy things. Like they're probably just back crossed to an Americana or to some bird where they can guarantee that maybe you can't, that there's more blue egg genetics being reintroduced to get those different kind of shades of teal, lighter greens and whatnot.
Okay, so let's go sideways for a minute. How do you back crossing olive eggers to the Easter egger to get those colors? There's a totally different
between olive eggers and Easter eggers. Okay. And my theory is that with olive eggers, first of all, it has to do with the saturations of the brown genetics that you're using. I personally feel like it also has to do with knowing the lineage. You know, that when you just get into like barnyard mixes of I'll just breed this bird with this bird and see what colors come out, now you're stepping into Easter egger territory. But if you wanted to lighten your eggs from a dark olive, then you would breed that hen to a lighter, a white, a leghorn or breast or some bird from lighter egg color genetics, cochins. That would lighten up the eggs in the next generation for sure. But who would even want to do that? Why would you even do?
It was Nolie that said that. So still free to direct those comments there. Because
there's a woman on my Facebook page. Oh my goodness. Vera, come here. You stop that. Anyways, there's a woman. I have a running joke with a woman on my Facebook page because she messaged me. Most people, when they message about olive eggers, they want your darkest eggs. Can I only have BC2 crosses? Or can I have your speckled? Like they want these really dark, speckled, heavy bloomed eggs. And this woman messaged me. She actually preferred the light green eggs. And I was like, I've never had anybody ask me. So now we have a running joke in our conversations or posts on Facebook. It's really funny. She's sweet.
So you have nicknamed your line the Dirty River eggs, right?
I didn't do it. Somebody on Facebook one time I had posted a picture of some eggs a couple years ago. And in her defense, they were like these mauve, like pinkish looking. The offspring would have been first generation olives. They were like brown eggs and light green eggs. But anyways, she messaged me. I listed them on my Facebook page and she messaged me and she was like, I don't mean to be rude, but do people really buy these? Because they just look like dirty river water eggs.
I love that. It's like setting it up. I don't mean to be rude, but I'm going to be rude.
I was like, not even offended. It was so funny that I wasn't even offended. It was just clear to me that she didn't have experience with these egg colors, and that was fine. But I had made a post. I kept her anonymous, but I made a post about it on Facebook just because it was so funny to me. And of course, everybody who read it was hysterical. And it just, from then on, it was like, okay. These are dirty river water eggs, and I love it. Thank you. So if she's out there and if she even remembers, then thank you for the tagline. It's the best marketing tool that I've ever come across.
Wow. Okay, so how do you get those mauve and those pink eggs?
It's an elusive thing. Really, mauve and pink is not an egg color. Like we talked about, you get blue and you get white eggs. Even the browns, greens, that all has to do with pigment that's deposited over the egg. And it's the same with pinks. Pinks typically come from heavy bloomed cream eggs or Marans, but usually the really heavy bloomed Marans eggs tend to look more purple or like deep rosy, which is pretty. But like I have some Wyandottes right now who lay really light pink colored eggs, but it all has to do with the deposit of the bloom that's on there.
Gotcha.
Well, the same too when you see gray looking olive eggs. It has to do with the bloom that's on the egg. Those eggs look really beautiful and they are really beautiful, but they're hard to hatch. That heavy bloom makes that egg less porous and they can be really difficult to hatch.
Okay. All right. Enough rabbit hole time. I'm just forewarning. Okay. So I did Moran for one hot minute. And I learned really quickly while I was trying to buy my foundational stock that people do not keep their brooders straight. So when I bought Moran eggs or chicks, in one instance, I got a lot of olive eggers. The guy did not keep it was a man, did not keep his brooder straight. He could not tell. So I saw that a lot in the groups, people sharing that with me, that pet peeve.
Did you buy chicks or hatching eggs?
Let's see. Those are chicks.
Yeah.
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 How do you keep your straight Morans and your olive eggers?
I have learned that I can't house them together, period. I don't hatch them together. I don't brood them together. I don't house them together. Hang on, I'm going to put this dog on this. She doesn't know how to behave. You lost your chance to be in the room. I don't house them together at all.
And then you band them or tag them somehow later?
No, I just don't ever house them together.
Oh.
Honestly, like with the back crosses, once you're back crossing olive eggers they can look very similar. The only way to tell them apart would be genetic testing. And I would hate that, to accidentally put an olive egger rooster over Morans and then not find out for another year and be selling all those hatchings. That would be terrible. I have sold somebody olive eggers as Morans. I have done that before.
And that is a really good excuse to have a lot of brooders.
Yeah, but this woman, she really wanted Morans. She didn't know that she had olive eggers until 7 months later. She sent me some pictures and was like, hey, can you give me some feedback on these Morans? And I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. That is clearly an olive egger rooster. Fortunately, she's local and very kind. And we worked out over the next 2 years, but I've done it too. It happens, what I'm sharing. That's why now I just don't even house them together.
So it's not even a possibility.
In her situation, I might have mixed up eggs is what happened. It may not have even been the housing. It may have just been my clerical error.
You know what? That's how I got my first coaching, eggs. And then this buddy popped out and I was like, what is that? Because that is not white Brahma.
Did you get more? I noticed you said my first coaching.
Oh, yeah. It's like going the whole way with done another source. Got rid of all the Brahmas and went to coaching. So how would somebody choose a reputable breeder then who has both Morans and olive eggers? Would you have any advice for them?
I would say, first of all, that everybody makes mistakes. Things happen. And genetics is not an exact science. But I don't know. I feel like by looking through somebody's Facebook page and their posts and the types of things that they're sharing and their website, I don't know. I think that there's a way to discern who's serious and who's just throwing birds together. You can look, and I would say look at the egg colors. Look at multiple different what they're showing you.
Yes. And realize that you can't just look at a chick and tell what color egg it's going to lay.
Absolutely not. And when it comes to olive eggers and egg color genetics, this is another huge thing, is you can't even look at the egg color of the egg you're hatching and predict what the offspring is. As a breeder, I can say, I'm going to take this really beautiful, heavy bloom speckle olive egg, and I'm going to breed the hen who lays it back to a Morans. And my hope is that the offspring lays a darker, deeper green with the heavy blooms and speckles. But it's not an exact science. I mean, there's something like 13 different genes involved with brown pigmentation. There is a lot happening there. So as olive egger breeders, we're just pairing up the best matches that we can with the colors and genetics that we know of and hoping that nature does the best from there. But in those back crosses to Marans, it's really important that people know that those offspring could also lay brown eggs. But I've had some back crosses who laid brown instead of green and laid like really cool blooms. And I ended up using those hens somewhere with true blue layers or somewhere else in a program.
So there is a possibility that an olive egger would lay a brown egg.
A later generation olive egger or back crossed olive egger, yes. It needs to be an expectation that it could happen. At least 50% of the time. Like probability wise, may or may not, but probability wise, there is a 50% chance.
I think that should be like a risk that somebody understands going into it,
Agree.
especially when you're dealing with shipped eggs. You're going to have hatchability issues like what you talked about earlier, and they're olive eggers.
Yeah.
You past F1, you don't know what you're going to get.
That is true. It's all predictions.
It's the chicken box of chocolates.
Yes.
It is not a breed. It is essentially just a barnyard mix,
It is. It is a what? Yep.
a very specific barnyard mix
Correct.
for a purpose. Okay. All right. I think that I better understand genetics.
It's a really cool science experiment.
To me, yeah, I love olive eggers. Olive eggers are one of my favorite passion projects. And like I said, I have multiple different pens set up with I have the olives to olives, the olives back crossed to Marans, olives back crossed to Ameraucanas. I am particularly excited about some projects that I'm working on for next year. One of the things that I like least about olive eggers is that there's no kind of standard for them. You know what I mean? They all look different depending on the different breeding pairs that we're doing. And so I'm really excited that I'm working on the silver olive eggers and I'm working on wheat and olive eggers too to create there are other people doing this already. I think Hollyoaks up in Maine is already doing the wheat and olive eggers, for example. But I'm excited to be working with a variety of olive eggers, just as opposed to we'll see what pops up, which I like. I like the variety, but I'm excited to have the standard silver and wheat and presentation for them.
One thing I forgot to ask you. So for somebody who's just starting out with these rainbow egg genetics, what expectation would you have breeding olive egger to olive egger? Just of any color?
Let me say that if anybody watching follows me on Facebook, I have a pinned post to the top of and on Facebook, I'm Mojo Homestead FL official. And there is a pinned post at the top of my page that has some reference charts, like using actual eggs that might like saying, I bred this hen to a rooster from this egg with the egg colors, and then a couple eggs showing some potential that the offspring could lay as well. But breeding F1 to F1, I would expect any variation of greens, darker greens, browns, maybe some kind of like spearmint colors in there, just some variation of color. I wouldn't necessarily expect darker greens, but they could surprise you. I don't know.
But if you started getting down to F2, F3, F4 and just trying to breed those together, you're going to get more brown eggs, just normal brown eggs.
Yeah, it would depend on what you know about the rooster. Obviously, you would always want to start with a green laying hen. And once you start to get into those F2 and F3 roosters, without some kind of either breeding and testing or genetic testing, you can't know for sure if that rooster is carrying blue egg genes. So it's hard to know if he has the potential to pass that down.
Gotcha.
Which would just mean that there's more probability for brown eggs than if you were carrying at least one copy of a blue egg gene.
So reasonable expectation, if somebody said, hey, I just threw my olive eggers in a pen together, you could literally get anything from light brown to olive.
When you put it that way, yes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Like when I offer my Dirty River water eggs are multi-generational dozens. So when I sell people olive egger dozens, I'm selling them or I'm shipping them 14 eggs that are going to contain as much potential as possible for like cool and green eggs. They're going to be eggs from each of my olive pens, including first generation, including bred back to Ameraucana, to give them, hopefully, the best start they can with like a cool colored green, teal, egg, heavy bloom, speckled basket. And that's, if people are serious about wanting olive eggs and darker eggs, my suggestion would, and I don't mean to be rude, you were talking about earlier, is do it yourself. And again, I really don't mean that to be rude. I mean that because that way you will know what you're working with and you will know the genetics. So you have a better idea of the potential and what's happening in those lines.
My thought behind my question was more like a post you might see on Facebook that says, "Oh, I bought these olive eggers 5 years ago and they've been in a pen all by themselves for 5 years." Then realistically, you're going to get pretty much any color.
So long as the hens are laying green, they are carrying at least one blue egg gene. So there's always going to be at least 50% chance of some variation of some shade of green, at the very least.
Okay, I understand now. Okay. Where can people order eggs from you? Do you have a website or anything?
I do have a website. It's mojohomesteadfl.com, but I use my website primarily to showcase my bird. There's where you can find all my pictures and pricing and information on shipped eggs and whatever else I got going on over there. But I handle all of my orders directly through Facebook and Facebook Messenger. I like to talk to people directly, and I like to have a space where I can communicate with them easily about shipping or anything that comes up. So if you wanted to order eggs directly from me, then the thing to do would be to find me on Facebook and shoot me a message. But this summer, I am one woman and a pretty small brooder. So availability is touch and go, and especially coming into summer. Olives I usually can come up with availability pretty quickly just because I work them into so many different places. I have a good number of them, but availability is touch and go throughout the summer for sure. Spring is the time. I'd say if people are really serious about hatching eggs, starts in January, which is crazy because you think it'd be a month later, but it's not. It's January.
Yeah, if you're serious about needing, and this goes for pretty much any species of poultry, orders start in November. And if you're waiting until April, you're really might be out of luck almost.
Yeah.
I would be surprised if you wait till April and you're not out of luck.
Like I this year chose not. I didn't do a wait list this year. I didn't do any wait lists. I didn't do any contact lists because I can't handle the stress of it. I can't handle the stress of keeping people waiting and people checking back in and when are my eggs. So this year I said I'm just going to try to do it all on a first come first serve basis. And what's happened is I'd list 1 dozen, say I have a dozen olive eggs available, and they'll be gone quickly, but then 2 or 3 more people will come behind them, and I will take payments out so far as 2 to 3 weeks. That seems to be a good time period to predict what the block is doing and serve those orders, and then so I can keep up with that, with everything without getting overwhelmed by the orders and without people waiting so long that they become restless. Like I see it happen a lot. I've had it happen a lot. And this year I was like, I need to protect my peace somehow.
What else do you have going on at your little farm down there? You're in Florida, in case people didn't think that FL part.
Yeah. Oh man, it's been a tough year. Honestly, I've had a lot of losses to predators this year. I've had some kind of new predator in my chicken yard, which I still haven't identified. My solution has been just to fortify the coops where I'm putting the smaller birds, which is what was being taken. So that's remedied for now. And then I had a really serious bout with coccidia this year, which was terrible. So it's been a tough year over here with grow outs and predators and coccidia in particular.
And hurricanes.
Oh my God, don't even let me. Thanks for reminding me.
World kind of starts after the molt in the fall. Like we start pulling our birds and mentally start putting them together And then we may even start making pairings, in November, December sometimes, your weather.
Yep.
So you were trying to mentally prepare for this year when hurricanes decided to go through.
Absolutely. Yeah, last year was
Mm.
very tough with the hurricanes, and hurricane season starts actually. It's June 1st through like October, and it is hot. But who knows? We'll hope for the best this year.
Yeah, I think they extended it, didn't they? They were talking in hurricane season.
And well, the good news.
Well, this is the South, okay? So if you don't like the weather, just wait about a half hour. It'll change. And they can say it's going to do one thing tomorrow, but it's probably not. It's going to do something else.
Yeah. I think for us, where I'm located in like the armpit of Florida, I think that there was something about the jet stream over the last couple of years, and it was just like funneling all the storms up through. And we saw these historic storms last year that were like, this area has never seen any. It wasn't like there was just one or two. We're talking like there's 3 major storms in the span of a year. That is wild.
That's crazy.
What other breeds are you working with that we didn't mention?
My bread and butter are Marans and Wyandottes, blue lace red Wyandottes, blue lace red Wyandottes, and Black Copper Marans. And those are the breeds that I have been working with the longest and that I am the most focused on when it comes to standards of perfection. Not that I don't know that I'll ever actually be there, but I try to stay focused. But I also work with Ameraucanas. I work with silver Ameraucanas, Isabel Americanas, wheat and Americanas, and Isabel wheat and splits. I also have lavender Americanas, but I am considering that I may not continue with that moving forward. We'll see once fall comes what I want to do. And then of course there's the olive eggers, and I also do silver summers in particular, and silkies. But I have a silky fun pen. You like silkies? Is that what you love silkies?
No, off the air we are.
They're her favorite.
It's fine. Listen. I said I would never ever have silkies, and then I accidentally got some silkies, and then I said I would never ever have showgirls, and now they're my favorite.
So, like for me, it's being at a show and seeing the silky people. Some of the things that some of them do is a lot.
So I went to a show, I don't know, probably close to a month ago now. And we were milling around, talking, waiting for them to count points and do awards and stuff. And I was talking to this lady, and she was holding a silky, and it was white. And she just sat down on the curb and put the silky down on the ground. And I just looked at her, and I was like, "Will it just stay there?" And she goes, "Oh, it won't move at all. Like, it's there. It will stay there all day." I was thinking, my giant chickens run across the field like puppies.
Yeah, they are more prone to parasites, in my opinion, because they're less prone to breeding. They have more vitamin deficiency issues than other breeds. And honestly, my silkies are an abomination to the silky world. Like, it's a fun pen with different colors, feather types, satins, which apparently are their own breed. Satins are no longer silkies, or maybe they never were silkies. I don't know. It's a whole thing, depending on who you talk to. You feel really strongly about it. But so I have satin. But anyways, it's fun. And here's the thing about breeding chickens. I don't ever have any plans to show chickens. I guess maybe like I didn't ever have any plans to be on this podcast. But I don't have any plans to do that at this point. I breed for like with the Marans and the Wyandottes and the Ameraucanas. I'm mindful of the standards because I want to be mindful of what I'm putting out in the community. But in general, most people don't care. Like in general, most people don't care about the standards of perfection unless they're showing. They just want nice, pretty, healthy chickens, or in my case, chickens that lay certain colored eggs. So with the people who buy silkies from me, they're buying pets for their kids and their house chickens or whatever, their cute little silky showgirl chickens. I will say that my silkies are my most reliable hatching eggs. They're always fertilized. They do great shifts. So they're just a staple over here.
one of my biggest sellers, and I haven't done it in a few years, but I took a Cochin male and put over a Buff Orpington, and the offspring were black Orpingtons with feathers down to their toes, but not heavily like a Cochin. But then the feathers, they picked up a gold fleck, almost like a Colombian.
Really?
Yes, and they were super, super cool looking, and I couldn't hatch enough of those things.
Did they breed true? Did you breed after each other? Yeah.
No, they looked terrible. The second generation was terrible.
Yeah.
But the first generation was freaking awesome, and they picked up all the best qualities, the broodiness of the Cochin, the great mama of the Orpington, just the friendliness, and they were great.
Yeah.
People love that stuff.
Yeah. I called them black gold because they were gold and black, and
Yeah, that's neat.
but yeah, they were just, but I just didn't do it again. I did it 2 years and I just didn't do it again. We ran out of pen space. You do this and then you run out of pen space.
And hence my maybe make a decision about the lavender Ameraucanas. I'm not sure yet.
Yeah, I understand.
Probably depends on what the grow out pen looks like come November.
Yeah, it depends on how Coccidia serves me for the rest of the summer.
We appreciate you coming on. And so maybe you come back one day.
Maybe. Pick a good topic and we'll see.
Oh,
No.
come on. We'll find some I'll invite you on. I'll tease you and then we'll do rabbit holes.
Okay. Yes, I like those.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye. Nice to meet you.
Thank you for joining us this week. Before you go, be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you can receive new episodes right when they are released. And they're released every week. Feel free to email us at poultrynerds@gmail.com to share your thoughts about the show. Until next time, Poultry Pals, keep clucking, keep learning, and keep it exciting. This is Carey signing off from Poultry Nerds. Feathers up, everyone.